Making a schedule while leveling up is imperative. One of the most precise advices which went viral in the year 2020 was a speech made by Admiral William McRaven of the United States Navy, where he begins by saying, "The first task of the day is to wake up and make your bed." That's a very naval thing. It's a very military thing. It's a very warrior thing. Quite honestly, it's really actually a very disciplined thing. How is making your bed a disciplined thing? Maybe you're asking why. It's about starting your day with accomplishments. And then you just have to repeat the pattern from there on. One accomplishment after the other. And that's how you go through your day, through your week, through your year, through your life, with discipline, and then you discipline yourself further with a schedule. It's important to keep track of your daily accomplishments as well as your daily failures. No matter how big or small, start writing them down. It's important now more than ever that you understand the importance and value of possessing a written schedule habit. Sadness and grief brings a lot of time-wasting moments with it. No matter how much you try to minimize the time you spend in those moments, you cannot completely get rid of them. You will have downtimes where your mind and your body, or both, just cannot function, regardless of how much energy you exert or how much resistance you withstand or how much discipline you have. When the mind is exhausted, the mind is exhausted. It's like thunder and rain. It's best to let it pass, because going out and messing about in the thunder and rain or trying to think through moments of grief or exhaustion only exposes you to further risk. In these moments, you can surrender to your grief and sadness for a while, and then you start wiggling out of those thoughts or gradually shaking them off. The hard part about making a schedule while you're on a road to recovery or transition is that there are many unexpected pit stops that you cannot pre-plan for. You cannot take into account the times and the durations of these flashbacks or sad moments or anxieties or everything that creeps up on you while you are in training trying to strengthen up your life. So at these moments, take a break, throw in the towel for a few hours or a day or two, depending on your situation and the amount of responsibilities you have placed on yourself. Family, friends, career, education, financing, other goals. You may not have all of them right now, or you had it and you lost all of it. But at some point, you'll want all this back. You'll need all this back. And so the best way is to start preparing a schedule, because that's a lot of goals. And without a schedule, without a routine, you will be setting up yourself for further confusion. Being disciplined and committed while trying to get your life in order is imperative. There are many speed bumps and potholes that emerge on this path while trying to get life in order or reorder. One of the big diversions on this path is when you are in sorrow or grieving. These emotions come without announcement and they are not polite. It barges in like a cyclone and leaves you completely torn up inside. The emotions of guilt or hurt or even fear blacks you out at times. And that's why making a schedule while keeping all this in mind is so important. Whatever your commitment or goals are, don't make a back-to-back plan of the day. You need to add buffer times before and after each task. You need around 2 or 3 or more hours a day where it's all just going to be consumed by sad thoughts and grief. When you get into a rabbit hole of thoughts, before you know it, you've lost an hour, maybe 2. These are those feelings you may be able to limit, but you can never completely avoid. And that's why it's important more than ever to make a concrete schedule when you are feeling down or depressed. And honor your schedule and be true to it. That schedule will give you the direction and the strength and those extra few steps, or maybe even the first few steps of the day while grief is constantly trying to knock you down. There's nothing else you can do about these moments except for accepting it and waiting for it to pass. Then you pick yourself up slowly and get back to your task. And that's why products of pain and suffering make the best transformations ever, because only they know the violence they had to battle, the pain they had to bear, the suffering they had to inflict upon themselves just in order to become calm. So, what's the best tried and tested way to make an effective schedule while your mind and heart are not completely reliable and they may just decide to quit? And when they do that, then there's not much you can do about it. Now, what I'm going to tell you today is absolutely 100. These are the correct and non time consuming ways of getting a diary, a schedule, or a calendar in place. So before you begin making a schedule, take a sheet of paper and make a large plus sign on it. Okay? This is the first step, and you will need to do this just once. Once you do this, then it's just about filling the calendar confidently and easily. So on your sheet of paper, the first box should read urgent and important. The second box should read urgent but not important. The third box should read not urgent but important. And the fourth box should read not urgent and not important. This is where you start. List out all your to-dos and your goals and your requirements. Once you have really filled up this paper, then take each task and break it down. For example, you have an exam coming up next week. It's both important and urgent. Clearly, there are a lot of preps to be done before you give the exam. So you start by putting down the date of the exam onto the calendar and then break it down. What you need to be studying. If there is any sample test that you want to do, maybe you decided to speak to someone who has already done a similar exam before. So there are lots of components that go into this task which needs to be taken care of well in advance before the day of the exam. So you break down the assignments that led to the exam. You need to study. You need to do a practice test, and you need to speak to a professional on this as well. Set a time and a date for each. That way you are not underestimating what all is required for the task to be completed. And you're giving yourself clear markers that need to be addressed prior to the exam. And you can do this for each and every task. In fact, this is the way to do it for each and every task. Specify your goals, because if you don't know what it is, then how is it going to happen? Don't ignore or take it lightly on yourself if you miss a task. People don't like to stand up or to accept or even acknowledge their failures, and so constantly they keep themselves blind against it. Start looking at missing a task as a failure. You had to pick up milk from the grocery store. You may feel it's no big deal, especially if you live alone. So you can make an excuse for yourself that you're tired and you will do it tomorrow. Stop giving yourself excuses. The truth is you failed. You didn't fulfill a commitment that you had to honor. That's how rigid your discipline needs to be. But what happens instead, if people fail on smaller things, then they begin to fail on bigger things. And then these begin happening all the time. And then you fail so badly that you arrive here. And if you are negligent on your tasks and assignments, and if the pattern continues without correction and realization, then that can easily and surely lead you to all sorts of problems and trauma well before you hit 40. When something needs to be done and you feel it's a little challenging due to lack of time or skill or motivation even, then you can't force yourself. You're not your boss. You're not your employee. You won't listen to yourself. Isn't that true? We don't listen to ourselves most of the time because we know there is no accountability to self. The self won't punish me. But see, the self won't punish you right now, but the action or task that was not completed will somehow come around and make you responsible for it not being completed. So when you just don't have the energy to discipline yourself to get a task done, don't force yourself, nor do you give up. You have to negotiate with yourself. That's how you make a schedule. Negotiating with yourself is so imperative. Do not just do the task, negotiate. See if you can compromise on another task to get this done, or at least get this task started and go as far as you can till you're tired again. The idea is not to give up because you are unmotivated at the moment. Don't give reasonings and excuses from yourself to yourself. You have to push yourself, and that's the only way. No one else is coming to do it for you. Another thing that works well, if you give it the respect and the authority that it deserves, then this tool will never fail you. The countdown to 5 rule. It is extremely effective, and as long as you respect it, it will give you results. If that's your go-to motivator, then this is how you respect it. Count till 5, and once you hit 5, you got to get out of that bed, or you got to put those running shoes on, or you got to take that jump off the cliff, or you got to start writing that email, or do whatever it is that needs to be done, but you aren't doing it. That's when you use the countdown. It's all in the power of 5. If you have given the power of 5 enough respect and importance that every time you do a countdown, it's followed by an immediate action of what you wanted to do, that's power. Try it. You'll be seriously surprised on how much you can accomplish if you truly do respect the countdown. Transformations, change, leveling up are all so unique and different from person to person. However, some details remain universal in being able to become successful. So believe in the power of 5. Have constant conversations with yourself about right and wrong. Look back and start counting your accomplishments and failures of the day. Take a break when you are tired, but never give up. Keep the faith, and everything will be as you want it. I don't promise you it will be easy, but I do promise you, you won't regret it. Be safe, be positive, and keep taking those steps forward.